Let's go Eagles! The draft is knocking on the door, and the buzz around the Philadelphia Eagles is heating up in a way we haven't seen in a long time. There's a lot happening behind the scenes, and I've got the inside scoop on what's shaking in the Eagles' war room. We all know that if this team wants to make it back to the Super Bowl, Nick Sirianni needs a top-tier roster, and Howie Roseman is deep in the lab trying to make it happen. I'm about to break it all down, but before we dive in, make sure you smash that like button, but only if you've been riding with the Eagles for over 20 years. It's always amazing to see loyal fans representing, and if you're really about that green and white life, drop a comment saying, "Go Eagles! My heart bleeds green and white." Now, here's what's stirring in the Eagles' nest. Just days away from the NFL draft, the landscape for Philadelphia is shifting fast, and it's all due to a mix of rising draft stocks and backroom rumors. One of the biggest names the Eagles were eyeing, Walter Nolan, has seen his draft stock shoot through the roof. Once thought to be a possible dream target at 32nd overall, insiders like Peter Schrager and Adam Schefter now say there's no way Nolan slides past the top 15. That's a huge blow for a team that got a steal last year in Jalen Carter, and it looks like lightning won't strike twice in the same place. Could Philly trade up to grab him? Sure, teams in the top 10 are reportedly willing to move back, but jumping up over 20 spots? That's pricey. And while the Birds have the ammunition, pulling off such a move means coughing up serious assets. It seems even Howie, the king of draft night steals, might think twice, especially with GMs across the league supposedly blocking calls from the 215 because of how often Roseman comes out on top in trade deals. So if Nolan is out, who's in play? Keep your eyes on Malaki Starks out of Georgia. Starks not only fits a need in the secondary but also brings versatility. He can hold down the nickel, step in at corner in a pinch, and projects as a solid free safety. With high character marks and a young profile, he fits the mold of what Philly likes. Daniel Jeremiah even said he'd be a perfect fit in this defense. And then there's Mason Taylor, a tight end who's turning heads. Jeremiah hinted during a convo with an unnamed GM, who many believe was Roseman, that Taylor is a sure-thing kind of pick, someone whose game you know and trust. The Eagles could stay put at 32 and still land him, which makes him a real contender, especially with talk of possibly trading Dallas Goedert to move up slightly for another TE option like Colston Loveland. Speaking of trades, let's not forget the noise around Goedert. According to Pro Football Focus, Philly could ship him off to the Chargers, jump from pick 32 to 22, and nab Loveland, a consensus top 2 tight end. That would be a bold move, signaling not just a shift at TE but a bet on getting younger and more dynamic at the position. The idea of moving on from a staple like Goedert isn't easy, but this front office is all about playing chess, not checkers. And it doesn't stop there. Will Johnson, the Michigan corner once projected as a top 5 pick, is now rumored to be sliding due to injury concerns. But guess what? Philly was at his private pro day, and if he slips into the late 20s, he could very well be on the Eagles' radar. Pair that with Donovan Ezeruaku as a potential edge pick if they stay at 32, and you've got a defense-focused draft strategy taking shape. One more juicy tidbit, wide receiver Jalen Dodson's 5th-year option was officially declined, making 2025 his contract year. While it's not surprising given his limited impact, it does raise eyebrows. Could he be trade bait this weekend? Some whispers suggest there's interest around the league. It might make more sense to keep him as WR3 insurance, but if the price is right, Howie could make a move. So Eagles fans, with all this swirling around, the fall of top prospects, the rise of new targets, the potential trades on deck, and the growing fear other teams have of dealing with Howie, how do you feel about where this team is headed? Is it time to make a bold move up the board, or should Philly play it safe and smart at 32? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And here's where things get even more intense. As much as the Eagles could stay comfortable at pick 32 and potentially still walk away with a strong contributor, the lure of trading up just a few spots is starting to look not only feasible but maybe even smart. We're not talking about a massive leap from 32 to 15 anymore. That's too rich for a team that still values its draft capital. But a jump to 22 or 28? That's within striking distance and suddenly a lot more realistic, especially when the name Colston Loveland comes into play. Now, here's why Loveland is such a hot name. He's not just another tight end. He's the consensus number 2 at his position in this draft, and the kind of guy that scouts say could become a focal point of an NFL offense. The Eagles, already tied to the idea of reinforcing the tight end room, have been heavily linked to a potential swap involving Dallas Goedert and pick 32 to jump up 10 spots. That would allow them to secure Loveland without completely mortgaging the future. That kind of move? It speaks volumes. It says this front office isn't satisfied with just maintaining, it wants to evolve. And this isn't just about getting younger. It's about fitting a vision. Loveland offers a different kind of weapon than Goedert, a more vertical threat, more versatility in the route tree, and most importantly, a rookie contract. That financial flexibility matters when you're paying top dollar to keep a core group of stars like Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Haason Reddick. And remember, Goddard isn't cheap. Trading him now might be a proactive way to keep cap space clean for future moves, especially with young talents like Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean soon needing extensions. Let's also talk about how all of this ties into what the Eagles might be seeing in this year's draft class as a whole. The fact that they've met with more quarterbacks than almost any other position tells us something. Sure, they're not drafting a starter with Hurts locked in, but depth matters. Just ask the 49ers. Names like Maxwell Harston and Trey Amos have come up, and both received top 30 visits. That's not an accident. That's a front office doing its homework and preparing for every possible scenario. Amos in particular has been climbing up draft boards, and given the question marks around Khalil Ringo, this could be another one of those smart insurance picks. And then there's the defensive line, which we know how he loves to stockpile. Donovan Ezeruaku, who not only fills a need at edge but also got to visit treatment, could easily be the best player on the board at 32. He's a plug-and-play type with the kind of motor and versatility that this coaching staff values. But again, if Philly goes that route, it's likely a reflection of them playing it safe and sticking to their board rather than swinging for the fences with a move up. What's also fascinating is how the draft chaos in the top 10 could ripple down to affect the Eagles' plans. With guys like Shadur Sanders reportedly falling and Jackson Dart now a possible top 15 pick, the quarterbacks are scrambling, and that kind of movement pushes good players down the board. It's possible Philly could find a stud unexpectedly falling into their lap, just like Carter did last year. And while everyone's watching the first round, don't sleep on the other rounds either. Howie's history of finding value on day 2 and day 3 is legendary. Just look at what he's done in the past with picks like Jordan Mailata and Avonte Maddox. This is where the real magic happens, and it's why even teams that don't want to trade with Philly still keep an eye on every single move Roseman makes. As we close in on draft night, one thing is crystal clear. This isn't just about adding talent. It's about staying one step ahead of the competition. Every rumor, every visit, every mock draft leak is part of a larger chess match, and Howie Roseman is playing to win. And as the dust continues to settle around all the rumors, one thing that can't be overlooked is how deliberate and calculated the Eagles have been in their pre-draft evaluations. Every private workout, every top 30 visit, it all tells a story. When a team like Philadelphia, known for not tipping their hand, begins to show patterns, fans and analysts alike should pay attention. The focus on versatility, leadership, and scheme fit has been crystal clear, and that's why names like Malachi Starks and Donovan Ezeruaku keep resurfacing. And while most of the noise has centered on the first-round pick, let's not forget about the ripple effects of these choices. If the Eagles do trade up and part ways with a veteran like Dallas Goedert, it opens up not just a roster spot, but also salary cap breathing room. That could play a huge role when it comes to midseason trades or injury replacements. It's all part of the long game, and no one plays that better than Howie Roseman. So again, what do you think? Should Philly roll the dice and trade up, or stay patient and let the board come to them? Go Eagles!